words central to the notion of America, democracy, and we're watching all of these things disappear. Right. And so it's not exactly, a kind of obscure metaphor. It's like the ice, these words are cast in ice and they're melting.
It's very
and they're
clear.
disappearing.
We start off in 2008 with the democracy ice sculpture.
The democracies were done in relationship to the conventions. Because had you done stuff that was this public before?
No, this is the first time we went on the road with any kind of public artwork.
Are they cast? Are they cut? Like what's
No, they're not cast. Everybody thinks that they actually are made in a mold, but they are in fact hand carved.
Wow.
Out of huge 3 blocks of ice. The ice has to be made so that there are no bubbles.
Okay.
So it's otherwise clear.
It would be.
And so,
it's for the transparency.
It's for the transparency.
Okay.
And then we actually set the plinth that you see in these, all the work is underneath is actually a light box, a huge light box.
So they illuminate.
So that they illuminate it, for example, like that in the evening, in a public space. People ebb and flow. It can be super crowded and then everybody disappears and it's standing on its own.
But like in something like this guy who's holding the flag.
Yeah.
Right. So he's making a statement, right? He's using it for his own kind of statement about, this is America. I'm a patriot. This is democracy. Right. So for him, it was like, owning it. Right. And these kids are like, they're just having fun.
They're playing.
Do they talk to you?
I think they see it as an ice sculpture, but we interview people.
Oh, you do?
Will this motivate you to get involved politically, or, you're here already for rallies,
I guess I wouldn't be here at a rally if there wasn't cool stuff like this.
Not where I am.
That was cool.
Okay.
So this is on the 79th anniversary of the Great Depression.
And this is at Foley Square.
And it's 2 weeks after Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. The idea of putting an ice sculpture saying the words economy in the public really resonated with the anxiety and uncertainty that people felt.
It speaks to exactly what's going on right now.
Es un buen símbolo para la economía. Right now, the economy is so messed up. People are going to get laid off. People are losing their homes.
The economy is gone past the melting point, I think.
I used to teach high school, young women, and the program cannot be funded anymore. So I was laid off.
The economy becoming more fluid, right? Or is it really becoming harder?
Right.
I think it's going to be becoming more harder.
This is very sad. The economy should be. And you know what concerns me the most? No student loans for me. And I'm just so sad about it. I really want to go to college. I really do.
How did you pick who you interviewed?
We were working with a videographer and who was actually pretty good at asking people, talking to them about what they thought. And then he would bring them to us while we were, doing our other stuff. And one of us would interview that person.
Okay.
One of the things that I think is interesting about the work is how people interact with an ice sculpture is to touch it. People are not afraid of it.
I think there's another aspect about why people want to touch it. This sculpture has this volume. Their letters weigh 200 to 300 pounds each. They're cold and people and they're changing in front of people.
Yeah.
And that's an aspect of our lives.
Kind of magic.
That is we're divorced.
We don't have anymore.
So do some letters break more easily than others?
Yeah, we were talking about architecture earlier and engineering, and
well, and as a typographer yourself, you probably can.
This is all about type. So it's structurally, if you look at if you look at the like the R, it's got support here, so it actually, but it's top heavy.
Yeah.
So it can, and this will melt first. So the U is one of the letters that normally lasts the longest.
And I mean, and to continue the typography, this is an Arial font.
It's actually not an Arial font.
Okay, Helvetica.
No, I think it's Futura.
All
Sorry.
Right. Anyway, it's a Futura font. And
some darn sans
but it's
serif.
stretched.
Right.
I did take a little liberty with that.
With the American Dream, Or serif font.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Nice.
used I tried to use the dollar bill font.
Oh,
It's
good.
called dollar bill. And again, I had to stretch it to make it more monumental. But I liked using the serif font. It really captured the spirit of the American dream.
Let's backtrack for a minute. We've got democracy in 2008, the economy in 2008
8 also.
also. And what do we have under here?
We have, this was the middle class, and this actually is
this looks like
this
it's
is at
back in
Kempner's
the
garden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started to say something about the photographs here. Do you want to go back to that?
Sure.
What-
The photography is transitioning to being more about the material aspects of the ice and the letters. It's not so much doing a document of the action, but it's much more about the transformation of the words.
That makes perfect sense looking at this photograph. There's no people interacting with it. It's the, ice sort of going through its disintegration. But also, I mean, formally, it's a really rich photo, right? You get that steel in the background, you got the kind of glittery ice, here, and the spikiness.
For me, going in and watching that kind of destruction on a kind of micro level, being able to see through digital processes how these are self-combusting, how they're breaking apart, and in this beautiful way, but in this very emotional way, is kind of what the work's about. It's quite simple. It's very different than these documentary photographs that are content driven, and these are more. They have that background, and they have that the scary part of it, but they also have this more abstract part of it.
Yeah, I think you need both. I mean, I think it's really important to have the documentary photos because I think the public sculpture aspect of this is really compelling.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, yes, a word like democracy or a phrase like the American dream is absolutely iconic to us. But when you put it in public and have it disintegrate, I think that's a completely different experience that you're engineering, because then it becomes part of, all of these passersby. They're sort of like, what? It's that double take moment.
The passerby thing is so important for this work because this work is for them.
Mm-hmm. For you, where the research went, as an artist, was not so much into that, like, sort of effect of the public interaction, or was it reported on, or what was the reception history of these works, or did that have a ripple effect of any kind, but that you started to be really interested in sort of like the granular micro level of disintegration, which again, I mean, these look very abstract, right? They're really beautiful. They're like, super kind of, fractally and organic and, but also, infrastructure-ish. But on the other hand, it's sort of like, okay, so it's a genre of photographs that we know from the science world and from the art world and so forth. But when we take half a step back and go, yes, on a day-to-day basis, this is what we're experiencing in our lives, which is we're so up close to this disintegration, that we kind of can't see.
Yeah.
So that's how like really disintegrated.
It's kind of imperceptible.
Yeah. And yet it's like, yeah.
And it's still there.